Now, speaking about traveling back and forth to Hyannis, that's considered our lifeline, right?
Yes.
You guys are considered our lifeline
Yes.
to them. Some renovation went down there.
Yes.
Are we looking at any other further renovations?
There are going to be some. These things don't last forever. The terminals have a lifetime. Docks have a lifetime. They're in a very harsh environment, and we see them every day. But they rust, they fall apart, and that's just the way it is. We have some terminal improvements that are going to go on here, mostly in the water. These big cement things out here, we call them dolphins.
Okay.
They're going to be
a
couple of those are going to be replaced. You can see they're sort of bent over a little bit from years of heavy seas and crashing the boats and
Sure.
stuff. It just wear and tear. So that's going to be done. There's some bulkhead work on this side that's going to be done. We're going to do that this fall and into maybe December. Hopefully we'll get that done. But we are constantly looking at ways to improve traffic flow around the terminal.
Yeah.
And just how we do things. It's very easy to become complacent and just sort of look at it and say, well, it kind of works. It's a mess, but it kind of works. And what can we can't really do much. But we do evaluate that.
Yeah.
We look at things like if there's a better way to stage cars to get on the boat, if there's a better way to, the taxis sort of park here.
Right.
If there's a better way to do that.
Right.
We have the fast boat coming in here. That it's always, it's controlled chaos.
Yeah, it is.
When a boat comes in.
It is.
It works, but maybe it could be a little bit better. So we look at those things.
And you got to look at the fact that it's 12 weeks out of the year.
That's right.
pretty much,
It's a short
really
season. That's right. And we did it last year. We changed some of the times of our arrivals and departures so that we didn't have, a passenger boat with cars and stuff sitting here trying to load, and the fast ferry at the same time, because you've got drop-offs, you got hotels coming in here picking up people. It can be a nightmare, but we've improved some of that.
I think so.
And I think
I wouldn't complain too much about it personally on
Yeah.
my own experience level. But what about the High Line? How does that relationship work? They're told you're a pseudo government.
Yes.
Private.
So the brief history of it is the steamship came about because after in the early 1900s, say from 1920 to right after World War II, the boat line was connected to railroads. And so it was sort of an extension of the railroads because there wasn't really a highway system, so people would travel by railroad, and then when they would get to Woods Hole or New Bedford or someplace, they would get on a boat and come here. So that sort of worked, and then the railroads, as people got into cars more, the railroads kind of were losing money, so they sort of divested themselves from the ferry boat system, and those operations were sort of taken up by private companies, which is good and bad. They ran into problems where, because it's so seasonal, they couldn't operate year round. Some of them went out of business, and so Nantucket and the Vineyard suffered from lack of service periodically. There was not a consistent schedule. Boats would come and go. So after World War II, the state stepped in and said, we realize that you live on an island, you have a problem consistently being guaranteed service, so they created the Steamship Authority, which guarantees service to Nantucket and the Vineyard by sort of creating a monopoly in the sense that controls how the competition between other boat lines works. So basically, the steamship is designed so that it doesn't go out of business, so that we always have a boat line. So how the High Line comes in, the High Line at the time was sort of a grandfathered operation that was already doing business.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they were already here.
In the early 70s is really when this part came out.
Oh,
So,
I see. Okay.
but in the initial steamship, if you were already, there was a clause for pre-existing stuff, and it allowed the steamship to license these companies, which gave some control, so that it's a complicated system, but it seems to work. And
could anyone else, like a High Line, come in
Absolutely.
and compete?
They would have to apply if your boat is over a certain size.
Yeah.
I believe it's about 50 people. or maybe it could be more than that. I don't
Yeah.
whatever the limit is. You can apply to have a license, and you come to the steamship and you say, I want to go from Hyannis to Nantucket, and this is my
Where
thing.
would you dock?
Well, that's the problem here. I mean, the Highline, they don't own their dock.
They don't.
They lease it.
So
And-
lease it from the town.
No,
Lease it from you?
they could theoretically, but why would we want to lease it to somebody
Who's
else
competing with
who's competing with us?
Unless it was guaranteed a certain amount of money.
I mean, we would get some money, but sure,
I see, okay.
it's a complicated
All right.
system. But so as it's developed over the years, the Highline and the steamship have sort of it appears to be a competitive relationship, but it's more of a symbiotic one,
Okay.
in the sense that in the wintertime, as you said earlier, our fast boat does not run from January until early April. So in order to have year-round fast service, another company has to do that, and Highline has developed that service over the years. So we license them, they continue to do it, and without them, if the Highline wasn't there, it would force the steamship to probably do it, which would cost more money, which would increase your rates, your fares would would go up, and so on. So
And it's good to have the competition because
is
it
good.
keeps you guys
it keeps
on your toes.
It does, and
because
it keeps.
we know that government,
Yes,
can get
that's
a
right.
little bit.
That's
lax
right.
if it
It's
has
not the
option.
same as a private operation,
it.
and we try to be, but there are things we have where we have unions.
Right.
And unions are a big problem when you are trying to be as flexible. See, the Highline doesn't have unions, and if you go onto one of their boats, you can sort of sense the difference between a union operation and a non-union operation, and it's different. It's not better or worse. It's just different.
It's different. Right.
So it's a complicated thing, but it seems to work for us.
Yep.
And the vineyard has some of that too. They have other companies that only operate, say, from Falmouth to Oak Bluff in the summertime.
Yeah.
So they have some of that as well. But the main sort of competition thing is Nantucket to Hyannis.
Okay.
That was sort of a long, convoluted
And
answer.
as far as the steamship going anywhere else but Hyannis in the future, there's always some little rumors going around that we might go to New Bedford.
There is a proposal now. There's a company right now that's called Sea Streak that runs from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard. They've been doing it for a few years. They do it several times a day, and they've gotten wind that there's another island out beyond the vineyard, and so they have applied to the steamship to run from New Bedford to the vineyard and then on to Nantucket and back. We're reviewing that right now.
Okay.
Since that proposal came forward, because it has an inter-island component, the vineyard to Nantucket, the Highline has stepped in and said, well, because the Highline holds the license right now from the steamship to do inter-island service.
Right.
So the Highline, and it's been lacking, the inter-island service has.
Why is that? Is it the cost?
It's the cost. The trip is a little bit longer to go from here to the vineyard than it is to go from here to Hyannis.
But they don't use a fast ferry, do they?
No, they do. They do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So it's a very long triangle, and they
Yeah.
don't really have enough boats to do it.
Got it.
So they've primarily concentrated on Hyannis, Nantucket.
Got it.
But if there were a way to get from Nantucket to the vineyard in one day, do a day trip, say leave here in the morning, go over, spend a few hours, and then come back, I think a lot of people would do that. It's just not available
Maybe.
right now.
I hear you. It's not like it's a dire need. We got to have that
Well,
boat.
it could be. It depends.
It's just
well,
nice
I think,
to have.
yeah, it is nice to have. And I
But it
think
would cost more money. It would be expensive. It seems like it would be tough to make that work.
it's hard. So, but this New Bedford thing has prompted the Highline to reevaluate that and maybe come up with, in order to keep the New Bedford company from competing with them so much, they would try and beef up their inter-island service.
Okay,
And-
before we go, I got one more question.
Yeah.
It's about the airport and the airplanes.
Yes.
And I mean,
I'll give you
in the
my
80s and 90s,
That's right.
I remember everybody was flying. Nobody's flying anymore. I mean, you guys are killing it.
I'll give you my quick analysis of that. When the financial crisis happened in 08, 09, right before that, there was a lot of money. everyone was flying. All the contractors were on airplanes. People were flying back and forth. The economy tanked, and all of a sudden everything stopped. Nobody had any money, and it became apparent, okay, it's too expensive to fly. What are we going to do? So the fast boats were already running. The people started going on the fast boats. They realized, okay, this is pretty easy. This is not expensive. So it became, over the course of the next few years after that, it became the norm. It is the norm now. And I was at the airport about a month ago. Their same day round trip is over $150. Whereas on the boat, we have a rate right now that's $50.
I know.
Same day round trip.
I know.
So it's a no. It's a no-brainer.
The pricing is
it's
just
a no-brainer.
crazy.
So that was.
But it used to be cheap to fly.
It did. So, and I don't know what the
Fuel's not any more expensive.
That's right. I don't know what the huge expense is, but now they probably, because they don't have as many passengers, they have to charge more to make it up. But it's just easier to go on the boat. And I don't know how the airport's or the airlines are gonna recapture that, if they are. But because of the economics of it, the boats have sort of done away with the airplanes.
Yep. Well, always good to see you, Rob.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And,
my contact information is on the steamship website. It's also on the town website. So if people have issues, I get a lot of complaints, and people feel bad about complaining to me, but I tell them all the time, if I don't know that something's broken, I can't help fix it.
Okay, so you're the guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gino.